Hi everyone and welcome. Today we're checking out the RODECaster Pro. This is a device that will blow your mind if you are interested in podcasting, but I don't really want to pigeonhole it for just podcasting, because actually there's a lot of people who make videos or perhaps are streamers and vloggers who will find this incredible in terms of what it does, because the RODECaster Pro is an all-in-one solution for producing audio recordings using voice, by bringing in music and bringing in audio from USB off your computer, and also speaking to people through a phone and actually recording phone conversations. It's been designed so that it's a complete and total solution for producing podcasts. But I think if you think laterally, you'll also see that there's some amazing other uses for it too. So we'll talk about what it is and why it's important, and I'll show you how it works as well. Podcasting is amazing, and you don't need me to tell you how huge podcasting is. It's one of the fastest growing forms of media. You know, something like 1 in 3 of us listen to podcasts at least once a month worldwide. It is a crazily busy section of the media. And what's cool is that podcasting can be about anything. You know, if you are an expert at something, then podcasting is an amazing way of reaching people. You know, the problem though is that just because you're an expert in your subject doesn't necessarily mean you're an expert in audio. And audio is a kind of, you know, if you've not been trained, it can be a bit of a scary subject. And Rode are a company who've been producing microphones for many decades and starting to produce other equipment. And the RODECaster is an answer to that question of, yes, I'm an expert in my field and I want to produce some audio recordings, but I don't know where to start. Can you make it easy for me? And that's basically what this device is designed to do. Whereas before, to make a podcast, you would need, you know, your mics, you would need probably an audio interface, you would need a computer, perhaps a mixing desk, and you'd need loads of software. You'd need to kind of work that way to build a kind of rig out of various bits of bobs. You'd have to learn how everything works. You'd have to put it all together, and you'd have to record everything and do all this processing. And if you wanted to phone someone and actually maybe like interview an expert as part of your podcast, you'd need to get audio into your computer, and you'd need to not have the person hear themselves while they're talking to you. And that's actually a really hard thing to do any other way. And in short, the RODECaster Pro puts all of this into one device. So it's wild. It literally is a complete solution, because you can record in the RODECaster Pro. You can plug in a little SD card and literally record in the device. I can have all my mics going into this. I can have a phone going into this. I can have my computer going into this. It has these sound pads, so I can bring in ads and like sound effects and like funny sound, you know, mad little things as part of my show. And it's got headphone preamps, so I can have up to 4 people who can each have their own headphones in the studio. And this is all rolled into one device. So instead of, you know, 5 or 6 different things on a table, I have just this one thing, and it's stupendously easy to use. Like, you do not have to be an audio professional. That's the whole point. I hope that makes sense. This is a device that will let you capture audio and polish it, and it does everything for you. It's kind of wild. So let me show you how it works. So I'm going to put my headphones on so I can kind of hear myself. Now, I'm plugged into the front here, so I get a kind of special mix as the presenter. I can preview channels that you can't hear as the audience, and I can mute things and genuinely control the show. Obviously, other guests can use the headphone outs, which are around here at the back. I can't quite see them, but they're there. So each person can have their own pair of headphones, and you've got a nice headphone volume control so that you can get it just right for the person. Now, so I've plugged a mic in. By the way, this microphone is also a Rode product. This is called the Pod Mic. The Pod Mic is a super affordable dynamic microphone. And because it's dynamic, it means it's a little less sensitive than a condenser, which is a slightly more kind of studio style of microphone. Dynamic mics are amazing because because of their lack of sensitivity, they tend not to pick up too much of the room's ambience. And this makes them really good for kind of radio or podcasting where you're trying to record in rooms that are probably less than ideal. Because, if you're like me, you're kind of just making do with the space that you have. You don't necessarily have a studio or something to work in. A dynamic mic will give you the cleanest, the most kind of dry radio sound possible. So this is very affordable and amazing paired with the RODECaster for reasons I'll show you in a sec. And this arm, by the way, is called a PSA1, Podcaster Suspension Arm. And this you've probably seen lots of vloggers and kind of gamers using. It's a really nice little angle poise arm. You can position it exactly as you want. And it's got a desk mount. We've got it clipped to the desk here. There is actually an insert that comes with it. So if you want to have a dedicated rig, you can drill a hole in a table and fit the little insert and they just all drop in nicely. So that's our gear. And now looking at the RODECaster, you can see I've got these faders. So these let me control the volume of things. I've got these sound pads, which let me play sound effects. Yes, which is super fun. And I have memory built into the RODECaster, so I can drag sound files across to it from my computer when I hook it up. Or I can actually record sounds directly to it. So you could do things like I could pre-record an interview to one of the pads or perhaps an advert or something and then play it back as part of the show. It's really slick, and you can do all this within the device. So going back to the microphones, the way that it works is I've got these 4 little buttons here. If I push button 1, it gives me some options. And when I said that the device is designed to let a person who's kind of non-technical, like someone who's an expert in something that is not audio, get a good result, well, this is how it works. It's been simplified. And if you are an audio professional, you might find it sort of almost too simple. But I want you to trust me that as I am an audio professional, I think it sounds amazing. There's nothing for you to get wrong, basically. So I go over here, and this is the microphone profile. You will see that there are some Rode microphones which are here, and I've selected the PodMic profile. But there are generic profiles for condenser and dynamic. And by selecting these, you're telling the device, this is the type of mic I've got connected. And the device will do some setup to make sure that the sound is coming in optimally and at the right levels for that type of device. So you don't need to know what to do. You just go, I've got this mic, push that button. Or if I've got that type of mic, push that button. You've then got a voice profile, and there's a tone, deep, medium and high, depending on where your voice sits in the sort of register. And that's just literally as it sounds. Use your best judgment. And then strength. Are you softly spoken, medium spoken, or are you very loud? These are telling the processing how to work with your voice and get the best from it, because every channel has this amazing audio processing acting on it. So you will sound like you're on the radio without you having to do anything else. So what I will do is I'll turn all the processing off because it's on right now. So that is the dry sound of my microphone going through the unit, and I'm going to turn the processing back on. So this is the processed sound. So I'll do that once more. Unprocessed sound, just the raw microphone through the device. Process sound with all of this going on, and it's all in real time. So traditionally you would have to apply that stuff afterwards, and you would have to know what you were doing to not mess it up. The device just does it all for you so that you can just record and not think about it. Just make your recording and go. We do have a level control in here as well, so you can trim the levels of channels. That's if depending on the microphone that you have, but that's kind of it. Once you've got that set up, you can pretty much just forget about it and just fade up the guests in your studio and adjust as you go. The device is doing lots of clever little things just to even out the audio as you go, and it will generally always give you a good, nice, consistent level. Even if you're a little bit off the mic, I'm kind of moving around, I'm maybe being a bit expressive and sort of talking to someone over here, the device evens those things out so you just don't need to think about it. And I can't stress enough how much of a time saver that is when you are actually producing audio week on week or even day on day. Because, of course, the other thing, this can be used with a computer to stream as well. So you can be doing this in real time. It's amazing. So 4 microphones. Great. You can have up to 4 guests in the studio. What if we want to bring other people in externally? We've got a couple of different ways that we can do this. Perhaps the most convenient is via Bluetooth. So you can pair your phone to the device, and that's actually what I've done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my colleague Jonathan. Hopefully he won't mind me bothering him during the daytime. And I'm going to see if we can hear him.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, mate. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry to bother you. I was just thought I'd bring you into our presentation about the RODECaster Pro. How are things for you?
They are really good, and you just sound like you are doing a presentation at the minute. I'm not.
Got my radio voice on, mate.
Yeah, you've got your radio voice on. You're sounding very official. But
Thank
you're sounding great. And actually, from my side, you wouldn't know because it just sounds great. 'Cause I'm not getting any of myself back.
Yeah.
As an echo, as sometimes the problem would be in that kind of scenario.
You have hit the nail on the head. I actually didn't mention this specifically, but there's a kind of secret squirrel thing that's happening behind the scenes where as you talk, it doesn't feed you back. It's called mix minus. So it's a feature that you would generally find in like dedicated devices for use on radio stations. Devices that cost a lot more than the RODECaster Pro does just by itself. And this does that. So you and I can have a natural conversation. And if we had additional guests, all of them will be able to talk to you live. And we can just chat as if we're there in the room with each other. And again, that mix minus thing also works via USB because you can connect your computer to the device via USB and then use external like voice over IP applications, things like, Skype and WhatsApp, or well, maybe not WhatsApp, but, Facebook, things like this, voice over IP services. And I also get mix minus with that. So I can just have natural conversations with anyone in the world and record it, which is amazing. So, Jonathan, thank you very much for allowing me to bother you.
Very welcome.
On your work day. Thank you, mate.
All right, take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. So that was Jonathan. Thank you very much for your time. I should give him a round of applause. Yes. And so, we've got Bluetooth. We can phone people. We can also use the USB, and we can speak to people via computer. And we can also use that for streaming. There's another thing as well, which is that we can get line level audio into this device as well. You saw that we had 4 microphones. Let's say that we're an internet radio station, and what we want to do is we've got presenters like this and DJs, and they're going to play music, and they've got a whole table of gear. They've got like CDJs and a mixer, or they've got Spotify or whatever it may be. You want to play music as part of your show. You can do this. It's not very immediately obvious, but this little mini jack input on the back, which is labeled phone on the device, is actually a line level input that you can use as a kind of submixer. So if you've got like mixing desk that's got decks or other things, if you use the right kind of connector, just jack to mini jack, you can come in here and you've got line level audio that you can blend in. And what's really slick is that there is ducking built into the device as well, so that when I talk, it will just slightly reduce the volume of those other channels so that I can talk over them naturally, so that I can be like presenting, talk over the initial part of the music, and then as it's finished, fade myself out. So you see, like in that way, you can use this as part of an internet radio station. It could be that you're also using it on stage for presentations. So you could have lavalier mics, like wireless microphones going into the back with the correct connectors, and then you could be using this to play incidental music use it anything like, wedding speeches, things like that. It's any kind of application where you've got people talking. And actually, some of the processes that's worth, possibly one of the most important ones is beyond the things that are sweetening my voice. There are also, there is a noise gate, which is there to cut down dead air, so that when I stop speaking, you have complete and total silence. So it kind of emulates what you would get from a very well treated room, and it seeks to like get the best out of any room that you record in, if that makes sense. So then finally we have these pads, and as you see, we've been having a lot of fun kind of playing sounds through them. Yeah. And again, I just want to stress that the pads are what you use them for is completely up to you. You can use them to pre-record ads. I'll show you the way that works. So I go to sounds, and you can see on here I've got the pads labeled. And what I could do is I could tap a button, and it sort of prompts me to record. And I'm going to record, "Hey everybody, you're listening to Alex talking about the RODECaster Pro." And stop. And then if I hit play, "Hey everybody, you're listening to Alex talking about the RODECaster Pro." And so I could record any of the other channels in. So I could be playing music, and I could be recording a whole sort of segment where I play music and like interview someone via USB or via Bluetooth and record that to a pad. You have 512 megabytes of memory built into the device, which is plenty in terms of recording, sort of medium length interviews, for want of a better, term. And as I said before, you do have memory built in so that we can record direct to the device. That's kind of the whole point. And the way that works is you use micro SD cards, and you can have huge micro SD cards. It's possible to record for days and days and days. Audio recording, audio doesn't take up a huge amount of room. And one final sort of note on recording, we can record in two different ways. I can record just the complete mix of the device, and that's just kind of the strength of it. If I want to just produce a show, I can just plan ahead and do it in one take. I can play my intro music, and then I can play my jingles, my adverts. I can chat to people in the studio with me. I can have guests that I bring in via phone, or I can bring in via the computer. And I can just be recording that mix, and everything is kind of leveled out by all of the DSP that's in here. Everything's just kind of done for you so that we can just produce a finished recording. If you're very, very skilled and you've got lots of time, you can produce podcasts using disparate, separate tools. But I can tell you from first-hand experience, because I do produce a podcast, it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of post-processing and a lot of kind of head-scratching. And sometimes you make mistakes, and you go, I really wish I'd noise-gated that, because I can actually hear a bit of an echo of one of the mics in the other mic. Problems like this that are a real painstaking problem to fix by yourself. This just does all of that for you. It takes care of those processes so you can just hit record and go. The only other thing to mention, yes, I can record the whole stereo mix, but for those who are super kind of, they just always want to have that option of going back and changing things, it is possible to record multi-tracks in this. And that's where you record all of the microphone channels and all of the audio and various things separately. So it will either record that to the SD card, or you can do that to the computer, so that as I'm recording, you can actually record the stereo mix, but still keep all of the individual elements, and you can keep them with or without the processing too. So you've always got that option, if you wish, to go back and kind of tweak things. But I think you'll find, and as I say, I do understand these processes, and I've used the sort of more difficult end. What is so wonderful about this is that it just makes the whole process foolproof and reduces the amount of things you have to do, so that what you can just focus on is your content, which is actually the most important thing in terms of being successful at making podcasts and videos. It's what's in it. So a device like this will help you just focus on that, so that you don't have to worry about capturing the audio. So that's it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, but check out the RODECaster Pro, the Pod Mic, and the PSA one now. Thanks so much. Cheers.